Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Kian if you haven't been here before. So this is kind of a spare of the moment Real Talk Tuesday because I was actually planning to put this footage on to my single diary series, which is going to be a series where I'm dating myself and taking myself out on dates. So I was originally going to put this story on that video. However, I quickly talked about this, not quickly, it turned into like a 15-minute video, so I'm deciding to upload this on its own. So I figured I should do a proper introduction. In this video, I'm just going to share some things about what God has showed me through the past week in my dating life specifically, but also like friendships, and just sharing you a tip on how to deal with confusing or conflicting thoughts. So if you're interested in watching, I will just roll the film. Let's go. God has worked very hard this week, and I wanted to share just a little bit of a recap of what has happened in my dating life since that last video, or that last footage. So earlier this week, this is going to be kind of like a longer story, so buckle up. It's not super long, but there's a big lesson involved. So last week I was at a coffee shop and I kept making eye contact with this guy who was there, and on my way out he actually stopped me and struck up a conversation. So we ended up talking for 3 hours about so many amazing topics like personal development and just so many things, and it was just a really good conversation, and obviously I was excited about it. However, he was not a believer, and he said he was raised Christian but now has a hard time believing it and is kind of looking at Buddhism, and I don't know. Anyways, from the conversation it was very clear that he was not a Christian whatsoever. And the next day I felt very conflicted because I haven't been in a position where I'm dating as a Christian, and I have to make that a huge deciding factor in whether I would date someone. So this new criteria was different and I didn't know what to do with it, but I just felt very like unsettled and confused about the situation. So the next day I actually had Bible study, and I asked one of my friends, basically what I was conflicted was about is, do I even go on a date with this guy if I know he's not a believer? Is that wrong? Is that a waste of time? And in my head I almost already had my like ending speech kind of written out, which is probably not a good sign if I haven't even gone on a first date. But I kind of had this feeling like I want to see him again, mostly because if I'm being very honest right now, part of me was like, it would be nice to go on a date and it would be nice to kiss somebody. And I think that's just, I don't know, being like lonely or something, but those were my genuine thoughts after meeting this guy. And those were like my desires. And just something felt wrong about those thoughts. It didn't sit well with me. So fast forward to the next day, I was just questioning, like, do I even go on a date if I am having such strong doubts? And it's like, I know I want a Christian man and he has so much potential in all the other areas, but he's not a believer, so maybe I should just go on a second date, or go on a first date just to like get to know him more. So I was just very conflicted. So I went to a friend, and this is very important, to find a group of women or men who are godly, that you can really trust their advice. So I went to my friend Jordan at church, and I just straight up told her what was going on and what I was struggling with, and we had a long conversation, probably 2 hours, and she sat with me and she prayed with me, and she had me pray for myself out loud, and she had me record it. And she said sometimes when you listen to yourself pray, you can hear a lot of what God's trying to tell you, or you just learn a lot about the situation. So that was very helpful. And through this conversation with her, I mean, I got so much out of that conversation, but the biggest thing I got was she told me that I should write down these lies that the enemy is telling me. So for example, one of them for me was, oh, it would be really nice to go on a date or kiss somebody. Another lie is like, well, he has potential even though, you know, he's not a believer. Like maybe he'll change, maybe he'll grow into it. Another was a lie was like, maybe I need to be the one to show him the light or what God has to offer. And these were all going to lead me down a path that would have led me further away from God. So she had me, so those are the lies, and she said to write down the lies in pencil, and then afterwards just take a moment of silence and pray and ask God to show you what the truth is about these lies. And I did it. And you're supposed to write down the truth in permanent marker, and then you erase the lie so it's gone. It's like a physical act of like erasing the lie. And then she told me to just like meditate on the truth and just like repeat it to myself every day until it's like ingrained in me and I believe it. So I went home and I did it, and I'm gonna share you all my intimate thoughts right now and what God has sent my way. So some big things that I got and God was put on my heart after this conversation. The first one, well, this one. I will not have to dim my light for my future husband. And what I mean by this is, or what God probably means by this, is during the conversation, I felt like I couldn't really express my faith or my love for God because he kind of made a comment. He was kind of asking like, oh, are you super religious? Like, you know, people just have a certain impression of Christians, I think. And so I could kind of get that sense in the very beginning. And God came at me with this truth and was like, honey, you should never have to dim your light, especially for the man you're gonna marry. So God hooked me up with that one. The next truth was this. My purpose is to tell others about Jesus's love and peace. And this came from, during the conversation, I was holding back on my faith, like I said before. He gave me a very sweet compliment, and he said I'm a very peaceful person. And we were talking about this meditation that I did, but looking back at the conversation, a huge part of my peace in life is from God. And he even said he had this void, and I'm like, I know how to fill the void. Like, it's Jesus. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe I just said that. Who am I? If anyone knows me before as a Christian, they're like, oh, what? Who is this girl? But he said he had a void, and I'm like, I should have told him what filled my void, because I had that void. If you watch my testimony, you know I had that void. And I could have just poured into him what God has shown me, but I didn't. I chose to ignore that call, and I chose to ignore telling him the truth about God. So yeah, God showed me that I need to be better about sharing my faith with strangers, even if I have a romantic interest in them, and even if that means, hey, they might not want to talk to me after I share my faith. But then that leads to the next truth, and that's this one. My husband will love my passion for Jesus. I can't read this back. It won't intimidate him. That one's gold. So, like I just said, I wanted to not talk about my faith because I know he had this preconceived notion. Excuse me, if this man was my future husband, he would find my faith very attractive. I know I find people's faith and love for God attractive. Like, godly men are attractive because they love God. And there's no way I would want to marry someone who doesn't find that part of me attractive. So that's it. That's a good one. Oh. I want you ladies to remember this, and men, if you feel like you need to stop talking about God or not talk about him that much in front of certain people, just know that is a lie from the enemy. The enemy wants to keep us quiet. He doesn't want us to share with others. He doesn't want us to make disciples of people. And yeah, so I hope this one helps you guys too, because after I saw this, I was like, why would I even waste time on somebody? Not that he isn't a beautiful person, but I know what I need in a relationship, and that is a man who's going to lead me closer to God. And if he doesn't even want to hear me talk about God, there's no chance in heck that he would ever lead me closer to God. So, I mean, God's crazy. He's just like, he just swoops in and just enlightens me. I swear, you guys need to do this. It's, oh, I dropped my Post-it. It's just so cool to see what the enemy says versus what God says. Okay. One thing that Jordan said to me was this really beautiful thing, and it is, the enemy is creative, but he cannot create. So God is the creator of everything. God can create. However, the enemy does not have that power. The enemy uses what he has and our weaknesses, and he is creative in trying to attack us from all these different ways, but he cannot create something new. So I just thought this one was really good. Like, he cannot create the right. The enemy just feeds off of our weaknesses. And if you notice you have a weakness in something, pay very close attention to how the enemy could be using it. So if your weakness is your flesh or your lust or self-harm or talking badly about yourself, talking badly about others, pay attention to how the enemy is using that in your life. Okay, the last truth that God shared with me was this one. I deserve to be listened to. My words are important. Does this show up as backwards for you guys? I think it does. I'm sorry. Wow. Okay, well. Anyways, so this one was, it related to the situation, not necessarily, well, yeah, I guess it was about dating. So during our conversation, it lasted 3 hours. This was the first time we met, and we were just like talking for 3 hours. And I just remember feeling, wow, like this feels really nice. Like, and I was like, why does this feel nice? Like, why does this feel so good? And I realized it was just really nice to be listened to. And it was just like this back and forth, and he was just genuinely interested in what I had to say. And that is something that didn't really exist in my last relationship. Like he cared for me, but he liked to talk, and a lot of times he would just spend a lot of time just talking about his day, but I never felt, or talking about what he realized or what he got out of this, but I never felt like he genuinely was inquiring and asking me questions and like just allowing me to share what I needed to share or what I wanted to share. So after a year of that, it just felt really good to be listened to. And I've been struggling with that because I find with some of my friends, I don't feel listened to either. And I kind of was like, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? And I felt at the time maybe like God was just teaching me to be more patient and to be humble and to learn how to become a good listener. But from this situation, I was able to see, no, I am a good listener. I genuinely care what people have to say, and I let people talk. However, I do deserve that in return. And God also used this man as a blessing because he showed me, hey, there's men out there who will listen to you and who genuinely care about what you have to say. and they think what you're saying is so valuable, and they see that. And then afterwards, I had a conversation with Jordan, a woman, and God just reaffirms that, hey, there are women out there who care about what you have to say, who will listen to you, and they believe what you're saying is valuable as well. So I don't know, God has just been working, and I just wanted to share this with you. This video is already 14 minutes, so I think I might just upload it by itself. It's very rough. I might just throw it up on my channel. I hope this video just touched you in some way, or made you realize that it's such a good idea to take time to really reflect and be silent and decipher, hey, is this God's voice that's telling me this, or is it the enemy? Because sometimes we think of, like, for example, negative self-talk. Let's say, like, I'm not good enough for my job. Take a step back and say, is this God saying that, or is this the enemy? And I don't know if you can tell, but I believe it's obviously that those words would never come out of God's mouth. You are not good enough for your job. That is clearly something that the enemy is speaking over you. So sometimes it's important to take a minute of silence and say, God, this is what the enemy is saying to me today. Please show me the truth. What is the truth? And then write it down. Just write down what he puts on your heart. And it's just such a simple, powerful way to connect with him and to get so much clarity. So I encourage you to try it. Let me know in the comments, or send me a message on Instagram. If you do, I would love to hear how God is working in your life. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I love you guys so much, and I hope you have a beautiful week. I will see you next time. Bye.